Hi, everybody. I am Ron Klopfanstein, not Cassandra Harris Lockwood, but this is still the Hot Seat. We're doing something new here called Hot Seat Media Mondays. So each Monday, I'm going to introduce you to another content creator, artist, musician, a journalist, a writer, so many things that people do around here that's creative and interesting. And we want to promote that here at the 95.5 FM, the Phoenix Radio. So my first guest is one of my favorite actors and performers, Xander Wilson. I wrote about him last spring when he did a company with Utica College Pioneer Players.
Yep.
And he's just on another play with them, but he also has a new single out. So we're going to talk about that first. So first I want to ask you, what is this new song that you have?
So Broken Memory is my first single. It's going to be on an EP also. The album will be released later in the year. And this just came out a couple weeks ago, so it's a pretty big deal. So I'm pretty excited about it.
So tell us about the process of, like, how do you go from having an idea for a song, maybe like the song in your head, to actually getting it recorded, and now it's on Spotify and Pandora and YouTube, and
yeah.
How does someone do that?
So it all starts kind of like a poem. I kind of started writing poems when I was younger, just like kind of things I was going through, things that I was feeling, sort of things like that. And then the poems kind of started to transpose into songs as I started to, learn how to play guitar, learn piano, a little bit of drums. I kind of just started putting things together here and there, and then sort of, just kind of play around on the guitar. Say, okay, this sounds nice, or this goes good with that, or maybe, this lyric goes with this kind of like sound, and you just kind of mess around with it for a while. And, once you kind of have an idea, you just kind of come up with a melody, and you match it with the lyrics, and you just play it through on guitar. And Broken Memory kind of started that way. It was a poem that I wrote when I was going through a breakup. And that was about 3 or 4 years ago. I started writing it, and then I finished it about 2 years ago when I finally had like a melody and sort of like, I like how this sounds type of thing. And from there, I kind of just moved it into the studio and recorded it.
So you first just start with it in words, just
Usually it starts with lyrics. There are a few songs that I have that have started out as like me just kind of messing around on the guitar, and it's like, that sounds cool. Maybe I can put some words to it. So then I just kind of like how I'm feeling. I write a poem about it, and then just put the guitar to it after.
Great. So like on the song, who, is it just you with your guitar? Or do you have other people performing too?
So yeah, it started as just me with the guitar. I wrote the whole song. I had my dad help me write the harmonies. And then I moved into the studio with Shane Archer Reed, who produced it. Shout out to his band as well. He's awesome.
Yeah, we hope to have him on the show too
absolutely.
sometime. Yeah.
And then he was kind of like, hey, your song's good. Why don't we record it? And I was like, all right, cool. Why not?
Wow.
And then so I went out to his studio. It started out just me and the guitar. It was raw vocals and a couple guitar tracks, and then he added a lead riff and some drums, and that's Broken Memory.
Wow. So like once you have the song done, you have it like it's digital, of course. Like you're gonna have like a record.
Yeah. So basically what happens is we do like a first mix, and it's kind of like, okay, how does this roughly sound? We play it through some speakers, we listen to it, put some headphones on, like, okay, that sounds good. We need to tweak this, or maybe the bass needs to be a little up, or the vocals need to be lowered. And then we have a second mix, and then once we're done with that, we master it. And then after we master it, we send it through the website which we use to upload the music.
Okay.
And then we master it through them, and then we send it out to be released to all the platforms.
So then do you put it on Spotify yourself, or like
the website does? Yeah, does. Basically you pay like a subscription type of thing, and then they take care of all of like the fees, and they copyright it for you, and you kind of like just put it out there, and then it'll say like the website, and then the producer, and then my name as well.
Oh, great! So like you just have like one service that does all the stuff. So now, how long did it take to do the recording? Like from your first try in the studio to.
So it was my first time actually like in a studio recording one of my.
What is it like in a studio? Like what's it like when you walk in? And where is this place?
So it's in Oneida.
Okay.
He has a studio in his house, and it's super nice. At first, it was kind of nerve-wracking, right? Because like I walk in and there's all this equipment, and I'm kind of like, oh wow, okay.
Right.
And then he's like, okay, all I'm gonna have you do is I'm gonna plug you in to the computer where I'm gonna mix everything and just play through just the chords of the song. Okay. And that's a little weird because
what are the chords? Because I've heard people talk about chords, but I don't know what they actually are.
Like in terms of like what chords are in the song, or like what chords are in
Like,
general?
what is a chord?
A chord is a series of notes that combine together to make a sound. So it starts with a root note, you have a third, and then a fifth. So if it's like a C chord, for example, it would be like a C, an E, and then a G, and they segment together to make a sound.
Oh, I see. So like, before you record the lyrics and stuff, you start by doing that.
You compose. Yep, you compose a series of chords, which is called a chord progression.
Okay.
And then once you put the chord progression together, like you can determine how you want the song to sound. So if there's a more sad part of the song, like a sad lyric, you can paint it with a minor chord, which sounds more sad. And then if there's a happier part of the song, you can paint that with more of like a major chord or like a happier sound.
Oh, I see. So like, in your song, what kind of chords do we? We're gonna hear your song in a moment. What kind of chords did you use? Like, is there part that you feel like is more?
Yeah, so
dramatic,
there's something called word painting in my song that not many people will catch on to. Other musicians might be able to catch on to it. Word painting is when you use the words in a song to combine with the chords, and that's how you paint the picture of what you're trying to say. So there are some parts where it's like, there's words like hurt and things like that have a minor chord played with them, so that it kind of like really gives you the feeling of, oh wow, like the hurt or the pain, and like you feel the sad chord. And there's other parts, there's like resolution as well too. Like towards the end of the song, there's resolution, and the lyrics also paint with that. So it's kind of like a word painting type of thing.
So like in your song, it like tells a story. Is what you're trying to say.
It's like the story of like going through a breakup and like the feelings, and it starts with like, sort of like a regret, but then you're like, well then I think, okay, well I wasn't the only one who played a part in this, so it was you too. So it's very relatable, and that was the whole point of releasing the song too, is because my music was like sort of my own thing for a while, and I've been writing for several years, but I just kind of like kept it to myself, and I just had like voice memos on my phone. But then I was like, I'm not the only person going through these things, so like why not put my music out there to maybe comfort some people who are also going through that. So
it's very relatable, and it does tell a story, and you can feel the drama. I didn't realize how you did that, like with the chords. It's kind of like almost like as if you're scoring a movie.
Yeah, exactly. And John Williams actually talks a lot about that when he's like, when he's directing like for Star Wars or things like that. It's all about the emotion that goes along with what's going on in the scene. So like, what happens is they actually have the movie playing in the room while they're recording the music, and they can see what's going on in the scene, so that they can sort of like compose around that and see how it feels. Right. Yeah.
So, like, for you, like, did you have it, like, in lyrics as you were writing the music, or did you, like...
Yeah, so I had about half the song
with the
done.
guitar the first time you
half the song was done, and I started, like, just messing around with some chords, and then one day I vividly remember I was just sitting in my room, and I was kind of just messing around, and I started playing a couple of chords, like, in sequence, and I was like, okay, wait, that sounds kind of good. So I started playing it with just humming the lyrics in my song, and then I kind of came up with a melody. And then I was kind of like, okay, well, now I can add a second verse. So then I started to write the second verse, and then I started to like work through it. And the only thing I didn't have finished was actually like the chorus itself, like the part where it says broken memory. And then that came later when I finished it about 2 years ago. So, and then I just added in the rest of the chords with that after.
So this has been many years you've been working on this song. So you're gonna perform it in this segment before we go to break.
Yeah.
So maybe before you do the whole song, maybe could you show us like a little bit about like these different chords, like how you hit a different chord to make it sound, talk about resolution and talk about pain and stuff. So you could demonstrate some of these chords. So
sort of like the word painting idea that I was talking about is like, it starts as sort of like so that's like the opening. But it starts from like a sad point. At one point, it sounds almost like alternative when you hit this.
Okay. Yep.
And that's a de-augmented fifth chord.
Kind of like a 90s.
It's got like a 90s alternative type of thing, right? And then, but at the end of the chord progression, it resolves back to the one chord, which is the G, because that's the key of the song. It's in the key of G. So.
Okay. So that's like the kind of where the song is most of the time.
Right.
And then you go to like, when you go to like the chord that's like more dramatic or plaintive, is that like a lower chord? Would you call it?
Yeah, it was. So there's kind of the sad feeling, and some of the sad part of the song comes from the E minor add 9 chord, which is. So it kind of gives you like a melancholy feel, and when you combine that with the lyrics too, it really like impacts how you feel. So.
And then what is the chord for when you have the resolution, or when it's like comes to the more?
Yeah. So during the song, at the chorus, it ends with. It all became a broken memory. so it resolves itself. You know, it's kind of hanging on that knife's edge with the D chord,
Yeah.
and then it resolves back to a G at the
I
end.
see. So that'd be the part, like, I'm thinking it on a TV show,
Mhm.
where, like, you see at the end who the executive producers
Right,
are.
yeah.
You know, the shows.
Yeah.
I was kind of thinking things in TV terms.
Yeah,
you
for
know,
sure,
So,
yeah.
right. So, hey, so why don't you perform this song? So tell us a little bit before you get started, like, the song's called Broken Memory.
Yep, it's called
People
Broken
can
Memory.
find this on YouTube. We'll have links in the show notes,
Yep,
of course.
YouTube
and
Music, Apple Music, Spotify, Pandora.
It's everywhere.
Yeah,
And
Amazon Music,
too.
yep.
Right, right.
Mhm.
And again, like, what is the song about?
It's sort of a breakup song, but at the end of the day, it's really just meant to comfort those going through that, and it's supposed to be relatable. Everybody has had a memory that they're like, oh, well, when I think about it, it kind of makes me feel broken inside. So that's kind of the point of Broken Memory.
So it's so universal. Maybe a good song for you to have your first release and
Yeah, of course.
take your music and get it to the public now.
Yeah.
So great. So yeah, so well he's gonna perform it he'll perform it live, then when we come back from the commercial in the second segment, we'll listen to it on Amazon or Spotify or
Yeah,
one of the places
sure.
where you hear this. So Xander Wilson with Broken Memory.
Thank you. You told me not to cry, but that's when I needed you the most. You told me not to worry, but that's when I worried the most. Well, I was so in love with your soul. The strings in my heart you would always pull, as the rivers of tears stream down my face. The thought of hurting you I can't erase, but then I think of how you hurt me. It all became a broken memory. No matter where I went, your pretty face was always on my mind. But no matter what I did for you, it was never enough to make you wanna stay. Well, I was so in love with your soul. The strings in my heart you would always pull, as the rivers of tears stream down my face. The thought of hurting you I can't erase, but then I think of how you broke me. It all became a broken memory.
Good job. That really does paint
Thank
a
you.
big picture, you know.
Appreciate
You
that.
love the
Thank you.
music, just the words themselves. It tells a story and it has the ups and downs.
Mhm.
And so what's the feedback been like on this?
I've had a lot of great feedback. Everybody's letting me know, like, it's mainly through social media because that's how I've been promoting it.
Right.
But I've even had people, like, even at rehearsals, you know, some of my peers have been, like, really supportive, like, hey, your song's really good, or hey, like, send me the link to your song, I want to listen. So the support's been great. Especially from like family and friends too. Everybody's been super supportive, and my girlfriend Carla has been insanely supportive from the beginning too.
And
So I
she's
just
right
wanna-
here too.
She
She's
is,
not- she
yes.
doesn't wanna
Thank you
talk
for
on
the
the
support.
record. It's great that she's here to support you and stuff.
But yeah, everybody has been super supportive, especially my parents. You know, they've encouraged me to release my music from the beginning, and I really am grateful for them too. So
And it's so easy to get to now.
Of
with
course,
all these
yeah,
links.
absolutely,
It's like great you're
yeah.
getting it out there and stuff.
Mhm.
And social media is a good way to reach out
Yeah.
to people. So if people want to follow you on social media, what would be a good place to follow you? you to?
I mainly use Instagram and Facebook. My Instagram is just Xander_Wilson07. My Facebook is just Xander Wilson. That's mainly what I use for social media. That's where I post most of my updates for music and stuff. So if you guys want to check it out, I'll definitely be on there.
Great, and we'll post links to that in the show notes
sure.
for the show after this airs. We'll put it online and stuff. So I think it's time for us to go to break.
Sure.
So when we come back, we'll talk more about your music. We'll listen to the recording that you made with in the studio, and then in the third segment, you maybe do another song for us.
Yeah,
the next
little teaser for sure.
So you're with the Hot Seat Media Monday on 95.5 FM.
This is Cassandra Harris Lockwood, and this is the Hot Seat.
Hi everybody, welcome back. This is Ron Klopfanstein. This is the Hot Seat Media Monday. I'll be hosting Mondays, and each Monday we're going to have someone who is a performer, an artist, a writer, a musician, an actor, a content creator come on the show to talk about the work that they do and what their influences are, and we're going to find out how much great entertainment there is right here in the Mohawk Valley from people like us that just do stuff. So we just heard Broken Memory. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your musical influences and how what do you listen to, and what songs, what kind of influences can we hear in that song?
So to start, I sort of listened to everything. I grew up with like my mom and dad just sort of listening to everything. You know, it was pretty
That's
much
really good.
Yeah, pretty much everything except country. And my dad is actually a DJ, so we kind of So
really?
I used to work with him, so we used to have to like
Where is he? DJ?
It's DJ for Your Entertainment Services. We don't do as much anymore.
Uh-huh.
But we used to like DJ like weddings
cool.
and all that.
Yeah.
So he used to I used to work with him. He's like, you need to kind of know all this type of music. So
Yeah,
I was like,
great.
all right, for sure. So growing up, it was literally a mix of everything. But my favorites that kind of really stuck with me was like 90s, like alternative, 90s rock, like classic rock. But then
I like stuff like that. That was like my time.
So, and then when I was kind of like 16, 17, I started like exploring and branching out a little bit. So I started listening to more alternative things, like stuff that normally you wouldn't hear on the radio, like kind of like B-side stuff. And I really found like a niche in that. So I was kind
It's
of
great
like, all right.
music like when you're a teen.
Yeah,
because
for
the
sure.
90s alternative was so like emotional and
Right, it was like angsty, right?
Yeah, you really feel that music. Yeah.
So and then I kind of just started like, oh, this is really niche. I really like this. So and then I kind of started messing around with some of like the alternative chords and like trying to mess around with what sounded weird and what sounded like unique and hasn't been played before, because you have those songs that are always like the 4-chord songs. It's like every main pop song is like the same 4-chord song.
Yeah.
So I started messing around with some stuff and I was like, oh, I really like this. So, but my main influence is sort of like Rob Thomas from Matchbox 20.
Oh right. Yeah. Right.
And some of his acoustic stuff is really great, and that's I got a lot of inspiration from that. I grew up really liking Maroon 5 and Train.
I like Maroon 5. I like them too. Yeah.
So like all that kind of and Maroon 5 sort of became more poppy recently. So I kind of stopped listening to them, but like their older stuff was more like rock and that like pop rock.
Very much so.
Yeah. So I really kind of like that kind of thing, and the reason that I listed Broken Memory as alternative is because it's not like your typical sounding, music. It's not like your typical 4-chord songs. It's not written in 4/4. It's actually written in 6/8, but it's counted in 2.
Is that like the speed
time
or
signature?
The timing?
Yep.
Okay.
So most of your 4-chord songs, your pop songs, are written in 4/4, and they have the same 4 chords, just in a different order type of thing.
What are these 4 chords? I always hear like when people. Sometimes people talk about pop music so being like they limit it to a certain number of chords. Like what are those chords?
So it depends on the key you're in, but usually it's like G, C, D, E minor.
Okay.
If you're in another key, usually it's like A minor, F, C, like that type of thing. It's like the same like sort of 4 chords throughout the song, and it's like that's what makes something sound good, is like it's poppy,
So like what is it about like those 4 chords? And
the catchiness.
The catchiness.
Yep.
Okay. And so what you want to do is like kind of expand things a bit.
Yeah.
And your audience to challenge them a bit more to have more depth.
Yeah, and some of those chords are in the song for sure, like the G, the C add 9, and the D are definitely in there, and the E minor as well. But there's a D augmented 5th, and the E minor is an add 9. So it's like you add a little bit to those 4 chords to make them sound a little different and not as common like you hear all the time on the radio.
Oh, I see. So like it doesn't sound like a song you've heard before.
Right,
It sounds like a song like you probably want a song that like where people feel like they sort of heard the song, so it seems familiar, but something new. Like
and you want it catchy enough by keeping those 4 chords, but you don't want it to be too much as like, oh, I've definitely heard this before, So
yeah, I was gonna say, because one thing about it is like the first time I heard it, I listened to it on YouTube, last week and then last night again, and it was like it does sound like a very like a familiar song. Like
Yeah.
it sounds like a song people would listen to.
Right.
You know, so and it sounds like that's the feedback you're getting is
Yeah,
people
for
enjoy
sure.
it and
Yeah.
stuff. So, what are some of your favorite songs?
That's a great question. I mean, it really depends. Like, from the 90s alternative era, I mean, like, All For You by Sister Hazel is a great song. Pretty much anything by Matchbox 20 is really good.
Yeah.
I started to explore more of, like a punk rock aspect as I was, like, 18, 19. I was actually, like, I was a singer in a punk group for a while.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and it was just for a couple gigs. It wasn't anything crazy.
Yeah.
But, you know, just, like, some of, like, the 90s punk, like Good Charlotte and Red Jumpsuit Apparatus and stuff like that. And that kind of helped me explore, like, some alternative sounds, too. So, like, more of, like, some more upbeat, like, angsty stuff,
So that seems like a big jump from like doing songs like from Company and theatrical
yeah.
productions.
Yeah.
So tell me how did you get into the doing plays?
So in 8th grade, I was it actually
Where did you
goes
go
back.
to 8th grade?
What's that?
Where did you go? Where did you go? To
Frankfurt Schuyler.
Oh,
Yep.
cool.
But it actually started even before that. I was in elementary school and the music teacher was like, "Hey, you can kind of sing. Why don't you do the high school musical that we're doing?" And I was
when
like,
you were in elementary, get
yeah.
to the high school. Cool.
Yeah, and I was like, nah, that's not really my thing. Sorry. And I was more of like the athletic sports kid anyway, so like, it wasn't really my thing. And then when I went to 8th grade in the middle school, the teacher's kind of like, yeah, you have a good voice. You're gonna do the show.
really should do the
like,
show.
She didn't really give me a choice. She was like, you're gonna audition. And shout out to her. She really pushed me to like be as
Who
good
was
as
that?
Mrs. Chelia.
Good for her.
Yeah,
It's good to
she's
give a
not-
shout out to your teachers.
Exactly. She
work
is seriously
hard.
from day one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she really pushed me, and I didn't really think that music and singing and dancing and all that stuff was really for me.
Yeah.
But she really pushed me.
She
was
was
like,
right.
She was like, yeah,
She
she
was
really
right.
pushed me. So I'm really grateful for her.
So what was that play? Your first play?
My
Do you
first play
remember?
was Cinderella. It was Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella, and
And
I
who
played.
did you play?
I played Lord Pinkelton, the town crier.
Okay, good,
Yep.
good. So it was your
Yep.
first claim to
Yep.
fame, your first role on stage.
Yep. And then from there, I just completely fell in love with it. Like the atmosphere, the people, everybody was super supportive. Everybody was so kind and loving, and I still had so much to learn. Obviously, like I was some awkward middle school kid that couldn't dance, couldn't really sing. I had never had vocal lessons, anything like
Really?
that. Yeah. And so I started to like develop into being like the theater kid while also maintaining the high school like football
You were also
player.
a jock too.
Yeah,
So
I
what was it
lived
like
High
to
School
have both
Musical. It
worlds?
was like Troy Bolton, really. I was like, I was like living High School Musical. Yeah, I mean, and I got a lot of flack, from like some of the football players, of course.
I can imagine.
But some of them and some of the
Yeah.
coaches too, like they were supportive of it. They're like, yeah, you got rehearsal right after practice, no problem. Like you can leave a couple minutes early, type thing. And it's like, so they were supportive of it for
That's
sure.
really
But
great.
Have you ever
And it
been
must
to
be-
Broadway? You ever seen any?
yes, I've seen
Broadway
lots
shows?
of Broadway shows.
Lots
yes.
of them in New York.
in the city. Yep.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So like when you were doing I was gonna say probably both things helped each other because to do a play just like sports, you have to do a lot of self-discipline, you
Right, of course.
practice,
Yeah.
rehearse a lot,
Mhm.
whether you practice or rehearsals. the same
And
thing.
being a part of a team too is huge, because just like being on a football team, everybody has to do their part. In a show, everybody has to do their part, all the way down to like tech and lighting and things like that, and like sound design, makeup, hair, all that stuff. Everybody has to work
Yeah.
together for it to come true. So
I saw some of that last year when you did Company. and
yeah,
I
you got
spent
some of the behind the
week
scenes.
doing behind the scenes, and it was incredible just how much work you guys have to put into this.
Mhm.
Plus, also how many times you have to do each thing over and over,
Over and over, yeah.
over
But
again,
I'll tell you
know?
that really helps with the memorization though.
I
Like,
was
you get
gonna
it
say.
real quick, yeah.
I went into that experience like wondering how people could ever possibly remember a script.
Mhm.
But then by the time like we got to like right before the show opened on
Mhm.
Friday, I started to like as I watched you rehearse, I would think, oh, I know what they're gonna say next.
Yeah, see,
and
and
it's
you
like
pick
I'm
up on
starting
it
to
as
see
you go,
like
yeah.
how it works, and like also like when you combine that like doing it over and over again
Mhm.
with actually the physical movement of the blocking. I think
Mhm.
it's that kind of helps you remember.
Yeah,
it too,
for sure. And
so.
studies have shown too that like doing the physical movement while like saying things or doing things actually
It helps.
improves cognitive recall. So that's why I sort of like if I'm running lines at home or whatever,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be doing my movement that I'm gonna be doing on stage so that I can remember. Okay, I need to do this when I say this line, or I'm gonna look this way when I say this, and that just helps like drill it in your mind so that you don't forget.
So it helps you remember both.
Yeah,
the
for sure.
blocking and what you gotta say. But I bet there were times when you probably were on stage. I'm sure this happens to every actor.
Happens to everybody at least once.
Like you
Yep.
thought to yourself, "Oh my gosh, I have no idea what I'm supposed,
Yep.
supposed to do next."
Yep.
So tell us about that.
So there was one time actually just recently in Baby, one of my
Really?
lines I went on stage and I went to say my line, And I was so into the scene emotionally that I sort of like forgot. I was like, oh my god, what's my line? So it took me a second, and I kind of just took an acting beat, and I was kind of like, trying to like convey the emotions to the audience. And then as I was doing that, I remembered my movement, which helped me remember the line, and I was like, okay, so there it is. So it just came to me from doing the movement and from being
So it came
emotionally
back
invested
to you.
into the scene. Yeah.
So, like, was there ever a time when the line didn't come to you and you had to improvise, or someone had to, like, come
Not
up
me
for you, or-
personally, but I've definitely been in shows where like they forgot the line and they had to improvise. And
What happens when that happens?
So there was one time during Cinderella, somebody forgot to say something about the shoe not fitting.
Yeah.
And
that's important.
that's a pretty big,
Cinderella.
during the scene, yeah. So during the scene, they were trying the shoes on, and
Right.
somebody had forgotten to say, "Oh, the shoe doesn't fit." And so they kept trying the shoe on and kept trying, and nobody was saying anything. So I turned to the audience and I said, "The shoe doesn't fit." And then we kept going. So, yeah.
So you were a natural.
Yeah.
From your first
Yeah, you have to,
performance,
definitely,
you
yeah.
had a presence on stage and presence of mind.
And
too.
but that's how everybody is too. You know,
Yeah.
like if you miss a line, and just like my acting partner Anthony Graham during that scene just recently where I was kind of like blanking on a line,
Yeah.
he picked up right where I needed to be, and he caught right on, because like you just have that chemistry with everybody on stage at that point. You've been doing it and you've been working together for so long that you
Yeah.
kind of just like catch on. You're like, okay, I see what you're struggling with. Let's just finish the line, you know. So
I was gonna say that, like, one of the things that I saw when covering Company was like how much camaraderie there was. And
oh yeah,
how everyone did have each other's back, and like one of the things I liked about it so much was the team spirit, and like everyone seemed cognizant of the fact that like if they don't do a good performance, then I won't do a good performance.
Right.
So like you all were there for each other. And
yeah.
especially
Everybody
the
wants
team
everybody to
spirit.
succeed, especially on stage.
Yeah.
It's like, you're performing and you're trying to share your gifts with everybody out in the audience, and you're trying to convey a message.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
for you to be able to like work with those people and be like a
Right.
team, it's really solid, and you can rely on them and they can rely on you. It's just, you have to be a team.
Yeah. So like how do
I
you
just
go
have to get
from
my car out. You can pull it
how
back
do you
in.
go from like the process of auditioning where like everyone in theory I suppose is like people are competing going for the same part to like putting all that aside and just like putting all that aside, I think she has to move your car.
Oh, okay. What's going on?
What exactly is going on here? So his girlfriend just took his keys out of his pocket there to move the car on Linwood Ave here. So how do you go from like, I would say like from the start, like where you're all kind of like going for the same parts, or like probably some competition going for
Right.
parts, to like putting that aside to being like, hey, you got I didn't get the part I wanted, but I'm the second lead, or I got a good supporting part, and I'm here for you. And is it ever hard to put that aside?
Not really, no, because when you're there, obviously you're competing, but at the end of the day, everybody does just want everybody to succeed.
Yeah.
And there obviously is that level of competition. There have been some roles I really had to compete for, like in Company. There was a lot of really good people that came out, and I really had to work super hard to compete and like to be as good as or better than them so that I got the part. But at the end of the day, when you do actually do the show with them, that just gets completely put off to the side. And like you even joke about it sometimes, like, oh, if I had the part, I would have done that, stuff like that.
Right.
But most of the
But by
time,
that point,
everybody
you're
just
all
everybody
clear,
just wants
so-
the other one to succeed. So that's part of why I love theater.
How do you know like what parts to what is that noise? Is that
That's my car.
Oh. I was thinking, is that the machine? Am I doing something wrong here with these
Nope.
dials and
That's just my
buttons and
car.
stuff? That's good to know. I was thinking there was one blowing in it. So, how did you decide like when Company came out? Because I'm very familiar with that. Like, how did you know like I'm gonna go for Bobby? Like, how do you decide like what part to go for, and
Yeah.
how do you prepare for that?
So I actually had decided that I was gonna like audition for the show really early on because I knew that it was coming up.
Yeah.
And so immediately once I knew that was the part I wanted to go for, I started preparing. I started taking vocal lessons again with Greg Unanks. He's out in Rome. He's a fantastic vocal coach. So I started doing extra vocal lessons with him. I started working on the music from the show. I started very soon because Stephen Sondheim music is very, very difficult.
Oh, is it?
Oh yeah, it's incredibly
Yeah.
difficult. He's a fantastic composer and writer, but it's very difficult, very intricate music. So you have to start prepping
I was gonna
very
say,
soon,
like,
you know?
I think some of the songs, like the song they sing to you, Bobby, but like all the different, like they go high, they go low,
And every
I'm not
song.
getting married in the morning. That's a very
Yeah.
difficult song, I
Right,
would think, to
yeah.
perform.
And
so.
like every song that he's written has a purpose to fit in the show too. It's like like you hear the Bobby, Bobby, Bobby all over again repeating. That's because it's sort of like in his head, like he feel like he's being pulled in so many different directions, and it's like it's kind of like driving him crazy because he hears it repeated. So that's like that musical painting again, like I mentioned before. It's like there's always a reason for why that's happening.
Now, from like the plays that you've done, what's been your favorite role? Do you think on
Some of my favorite roles actually just recently, Danny and Baby.
One, yeah.
Ren in Footloose was super.
Oh, you
fun.
played Ren in Footloose?
I did,
wow.
yeah, super fun part.
Where did you do that?
That was at Frankfurt Schuyler when I was in high school.
Okay.
I was in 10th grade when I did that.
Cool.
Yep. And then
that must be a lot of fun to play that.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yep. And I really liked the role of Henry in Next to Normal, because I got to be like the angsty teenager, who smokes weed and blah blah blah. So I was like the stoner boyfriend, and that was a super cool role because that was something so different for me. Because I had never done anything.
Rome Community.
Yep, that was at Rome Community.
Okay. So you work with a lot of different groups.
Yep, I've gone pretty much everywhere. The one I really want to do, I do want to try a show at Rome Capitol at some point. It's very nice theater, beautiful theater. So I really want to try some. Yeah, they do the summertime shows there. Yeah. So
do you know what they're going to do this year? Or?
I don't. They can't. They kind of keep it hush hush until it gets closer, so people don't have time to prepare too much.
Well, if I get the scoop, I'll let you
definitely
know.
want to know. Yeah, for sure.
So, among the roles that you've done, like, what's been do you think the most hard?
Definitely Bobby. Yep.
Okay, and why? Why?
So Bobby was not only a difficult memorization part because there was so many lines, because Bobby is like the center of the show. Yeah. So there's so many lines and you're interacting with so many different couples. But as far as a character, to get into character for that part was extremely difficult because basically Bobby's a middle-aged man who's trying to decide whether or not he wants to be married or not. So, and at the time I was only 19, 20 when that happened. So I was like, how do I really get into character and figure out how to play this guy? Because I have not experienced that yet in my life. So it was difficult for sure, but
you did it very well.
Thank
because
you.
I was going to say, I was really super
impressed.
And
I couldn't have done it without the direction of Dennis Clark. He completely supported me through all that, and we worked super hard. And it was very stressful getting everything ready and memorizing the lines and making sure everything was perfect because it was a difficult role.
All those dance moves.
But yeah, he was so patient with me
on stage all at once.
Sure.
It's like you guys worked so hard to get that together.
100%.
You had such a good cast too. That must have helped.
Everybody was super talented. Yeah,
everybody was so in the moment. Even with the rehearsals, I was so impressed by that. To see what I saw when people were just there, in their sweatpants and stuff, without even in costume yet, just on the bare stage. You could sort of see how it was going to look when.
And that's sometimes that's the hard part too. Is it's hard to get into character, at least for me even. When I'm just in sweatpants and a sweatshirt at rehearsal, as opposed to actually being in costume on stage. It's okay, I actually am this person now. I have to embody this aura so that I can put it on stage and actually be who I want to be. Yeah. But you have to carry that whether you're wearing sweatpants or Speedo. It doesn't matter. You have to bring it on stage. And you have to bring that energy. And you have
in
to
your
play
mind,
that
you have to
exactly.
the mindset. You did it. So you did it very, very well.
I appreciate that. Thank
so
you.
in the next segment, we're going to hear another song, and we'll hear a little bit about Broken Memory from YouTube or Spotify, one of the places where we can find this. I'm talking to Xander Wilson. This is a Hot Seat Media Monday. We'll be back with more right after this break. Did that pretty good. 5:36.
Right on the dot.
Celebrating over 30 years of business, delivers to all local businesses and colleges in the Utica area. This is the Hot Seat.
You're with the Hot Seat Media Monday. That was Xander Wilson's Broken Memory. You can get the song on YouTube, on Amazon, on Pandora, on Spotify, and on Apple. I think I got all five,
That's all,
right?
yep.
So no matter where you go, you can get this song. So listen to the song. Go look up this song. And you have another one you're working on too. You're gonna see that first in a few minutes. But first, tell us about the next project that you have.
So
one act play.
Yeah, so Utica University is going to be doing a one-act, sort of like a collaboration of small, like 10-minute plays, just to support, like the class I think that they're working on. And I'm going to be playing Billy Bob in a show called Pee Pee Bucket. It's just
fun.
Yeah, it's just a short 10-minute little play. My buddy Derek Korsner is going to be directing that. So
I know him. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that'll be exciting. And that goes up I think April 27th and the 28th.
And we'll have links to all this stuff on our show notes, and I'm sure you can find this on the Utica University Theater Department. Has a Facebook page and stuff. So now you're also working on. You have other songs you put out an EP. And I was asking you during the break, like when people say they have an album or an EP, like now you don't mean a physical one. I'm not trying to date myself here.
No,
but
yeah.
It's digital now, so it'll be like a collection of songs.
Yep, it's gonna be like 5 or 6 songs. I thought of maybe even including an acoustic version of Broken Memory, like I played a little bit ago on there. Yeah. And it's just gonna be 5 or 6 songs that are really meaningful to me that I've wrote over the years. And hopefully that'll be released later in the year.
So, how long will this take you to do these to record these songs and
recording takes usually a couple days. Sometimes you can and sometimes you can bang out a couple in a day. Like the most recent, I recorded a song called Always, and I recorded Dreams, which I'll be playing shortly. We recorded those both in one day, and it took pretty much the whole day. But we got them recorded, and now they're actually being mixed and mastered by my producer Shane Reed now. So.
Great. So then, will you release these songs one at a time, like you do this first one, or you can do?
I thought about that, but I think once all of them are done being recorded and mastered and everything, I'm just gonna release them all together and then just say that that's my first project.
That's a good idea. So Broken Memory is kind of like the.
Broken Memory is like the title song of the EP, and it's that's gonna be the title of the EP too.
I mean, that's the kind of song too. I could definitely see you talk about how it's catchy and stuff. It's the kind of song that people would really catchy, and people would be interested in wanting to know more and stuff. And if people wanted to keep up to date with you, they would follow you on Instagram.
And Facebook. Instagram is Xander_Wilson07, and Facebook is just Xander Wilson.
Xander Wilson. And right now, there's a picture of you and Baby. I think it's
there is.
Rock star.
Yep. It's the punk outfit I got to wear during my last show. Yeah, it was pretty fun.
I use that for the picture for the promo too. So
yeah, it's a good picture. I like it.
You've gotten to play so many different roles on stage. It must be exciting to be different people.
It really is. It's like an escape from reality almost. It's like you get to be somebody different for a couple months. And then you get to work on, a different project with these people being that different character. So you get to interact differently with different people who are also playing different characters. And it's something new all the time. It's always fresh. And it's always fun working with the same people, too. So
it's really nice because as I've covered more plays and stuff, to see the same people, work on different projects and stuff. And it's interesting. It's got to a point where, when I know someone's going to be playing a part, I'll think, I wonder how he's going to do that. I wonder how she's going to do that. I was so excited to see Jessica Wilk do... she was in Company as
Joanne.
Yes, and when I knew she was going to do that, it was I can't wait to see her rehearse that scene. The ladies who lunched, and she gave so much drama.
One of my favorite songs in the show.
Anger and sadness and all this stuff. And it's we have so much good entertainment here that people around here like you make. There's so much to do to see. Every weekend there's plays that
Yeah, I mean there's plays, there's musicals, there's local musicians playing out at bars. I mean there's always something to do. It's just as far as promoting it and getting your stuff out there and actually getting people into it and getting people to see it. It's that's the difficult part, but that's
the hardest part. So that's what I'm hoping to help with this show.
I appreciate that. Yeah, for
sure. Thinking every Monday we can I'll have on people like you when the EP's done, come back. You know?
For sure.
And people doing plays and it's so many interesting things that go on. It's interesting too. I've been lucky as a journalist to be able to talk to the people like you who are doing stuff about the motivation, what goes into it, and see the process and stuff. And what do you think would surprise people the most if they're seeing a play? What do you think people would find most surprising about making music to record or doing a play or doing a performance?
A lot of it, I think, is staying motivated. You know, being
Yeah.
disciplined. Like we talked about earlier, being motivated and staying disciplined are two very different things. Because you can be as
Yeah.
motivated as you want, but not do anything about it. You know.
Right.
So staying
Right.
disciplined while being motivated is the key. You know, sometimes you have an off night at rehearsal and you're like, wow, you know, I really suck, but you can't get down on yourself because, you know, you can't let the other people around you down. So you can
Right.
have a bad rehearsal, but you got to stay disciplined, you got to stay motivated, you got to keep going, you got to show up to the next rehearsal, you know, just the same.
Do you ever have like nerves?
Oh,
Like
before the
butterflies?
shows, yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely not as bad as it used to be. Like for my
Yeah.
first few shows, I was like, you know, ready to like throw up backstage, nervous.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
as I've gone up, I've done so many shows now. It's just like, yeah, I get the
Yeah.
butterflies when I first walk out onto stage and see the audience and everybody, and I see my family and everything, and that definitely gets
Yeah.
me excited and gets me nervous. But at that point, it's like, you know, I have a job to do, I have a show to put on, and I have people to, you know, impress and share my gift with.
So do you at that point do you just like focus on the other actors and the characters that they play?
Yeah,
and
at that
you're-
point, yeah, at that point, like especially during show nights, like during dress rehearsals and you know like tech rehearsal and like that's all like okay, yeah, I'm here, I'm you know going through the motions, doing what I have to do, so the light people can do their thing, so the sound people can do their thing. But once
Yeah.
you're in the show and you're like there, at that point, it's like you have to actually be in character and you have to pretend like you're actually in the
be
show.
in the moment,
Yeah,
kind of
100%,
the
yep.
emotion and stuff.
And you're most of the time you're not even thinking about what you're doing. You're not even thinking about the audience. You can see them sometimes depending on the lighting, but
Yeah.
most of the time.
Oh,
it's
so
like,
yes, it. So like
yeah.
when you walk out on stage, like during an actual show, can you see the audience or just like
It depends
black
on the
wall?
lighting, yeah. Usually, like, if the lighting is very, like, bright on the stage, it's usually very dark out in the audience, so it's really hard to see.
Yeah.
But during, like, a big number, like, a big finale number, like, a big, like, upbeat number or whatever, and the lights are, like, a different color, you can definitely see the people in the audience. And the same thing at the end of the show, like, seeing everybody, if you get a standing ovation at the end of the show,
That's right. Like when you walk out
that's
and
just a
stuff, they
beautiful
kind of
feeling,
come.
just when you walk out and you
It
see
must
the whole
be.
audience, yeah, it's just beautiful.
So, do you ever like when you? I was wondering, like when actors like look out at the audience, do you ever like actually connect with people in the audience? Or you
Oh,
try not
100%,
to-
yeah. Especially when you're singing more of a ballad.
when you're
it's
singing,
like,
you probably
yeah, when
do
you're
more so,
singing
yeah.
and you're not like singing to another person or with another person, it's kind of like just I had a few moments like that in company.
You had a lot of like
yeah.
monologues and
Mhm.
stuff, right?
So like
right.
with that moment for sure, like sometimes you'll catch somebody's like their glance in the audience, and you like
Yeah.
you're connecting with them because you can tell like they're feeling what you're saying, and it's like it's a really powerful thing to be able to share that with somebody and let them feel something that they haven't felt.
I'll bet. So you feel that it works
For
in,
sure,
like,
yeah.
a moment. So tell us a little bit about the song you're gonna do next, like what the influences were and what your
So
what it's
Dreams,
called?
yeah. So Dreams is going to be on the EP Broken Memory. It's really an alternative sounding song. This is another one where I was just messing in my room, you know, with the guitar, and I was like, oh, this sounds weird. Oh, that sounds weird too, but they sound good weird together. So let me just put it together. So and this also started as a poem.
Okay.
And
So
I
did
just
you
kinda
do the
added
music first or the words?
This one actually had the
words or
music first.
Okay.
Yep.
So you mixed the music, the two chords. You thought that sounds interesting.
Yep, and then I
you
mixed two other chords, and I was like, those also sound good together. So I made 4 chords, and I was like, this is cool. It sounds weird, and you know, I hope people like it, even though it's a little bit alternative and different.
And then the words came after that. Like
Yep, and I ended up writing the poem over the course of a few months. I had some ideas and some things that I was.
What is it about?
Dreams is about you know, having the same dream about somebody. You know, and he keeps repeating in your head. You know, it's like when you wake up from a dream, you're like, oh, that felt real. And you're like, well, I wish I could go back to that dream.
Yeah.
But then you try to go back to sleep and you can't go back to that. So like that one person that you wanted to see in your dream, you can't see them anymore. You know. So and that can apply in like a whole bunch of different ways. You know, it could be like a loved one that has passed and you saw them in your dream and you really want to go back to that.
Yes.
Or
right.
it could be a significant other, you know, or an ex. Like it really doesn't matter. It can apply to any sort of situation.
And you wake up and you're somehow like almost more sad because you had that experience.
Exactly.
So, well, that sounds great. So why don't you take out
Of
your
course.
guitar? You can play that for us. It's
For sure.
Dreams and be on your EP. And people now can listen to Broken Memory on YouTube, Pandora, Spotify, Amazon, and Apple Music.
I think that's all of them. There's so many of them now. I can't even keep
So
track.
I think I found them all. I'm pretty good at my research, so I think I got them all.
Yeah.
All right, so go ahead, Dreams.
Thank you. Behind this fake smile is everything you never understood. felt so real, just like the times before. I saw you again in my dreams, but I still couldn't tell you how I really feel.
Good job. Wow,
Thank
that
you.
song has that emotion too. It does the word painting and stuff. I can see how
Yes,
it
of
pairs
course.
so
Mhm.
well with Broken Memory as
Mhm.
well. So the rest of your songs in your EP, will they be in that style as well?
Some of them are a little more upbeat. That's more of a mellow one. That's gonna have some piano in the back of it as well. So I'm excited about that
Nice.
one. But most of them
Who's
are
gonna
gonna
play
be.
the piano? Can you play that
Shane,
too?
yeah, I can play, but Shane's way better than me, so he's gonna
Oh,
add some
that's
piano
great.
back into it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, and the other songs, there's gonna be Always, which is a really upbeat one with a nice guitar solo. And then I'm thinking of the acoustic version of Broken Memory, which is more mellow.
Yeah.
And then a song called Crying Heart, which should be a little bit more upbeat, but it's also gonna be more of like a mellow alternative, so that you can just like vibe to it, that kind of thing.
And you wrote all these songs too,
Mhm.
you know?
And I've been writing music since I was like 14, 15. And like I said, most of them started as poems, and I kind of just added music to it once I learned how to play guitar. So
There's something about your songs that like it has sort of like sort of reminds me a bit of like sort of the 70s kind of feel where they would have people that would like tell stories with their music,
Mhm.
you
Yeah,
know? So
of
it's
course.
like sort of feels a little bit like Seals and Crofts or 3.9.
yeah, and every song has a story. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
anything you listen to on the radio, from even just to like my songs, like everything has a story for sure. So
And what's so good about these songs too is like I can, as you play them, you can see how they're songs you can really feel and perform. And
yeah,
that
and
gives it a little
that's the
extra,
biggest thing
you know?
for me too. Is like I want people to be able to feel the emotion that I'm trying to convey through my music.
Right.
So like, Broken Memory is relatable, and maybe
Yeah.
Dreams you feel like weird
Yeah.
about it. You're like, oh, like I've definitely been there, but like it's not a good
Right.
memory, so like I feel weird about it, you know. So
I've honestly never heard a song about that before, so
Really?
what a good idea, you know,
Yeah.
because I mean, songs are about, there's obviously themes that repeat in
Yeah, for
songs,
sure.
but that's an interesting approach to
Mhm.
take about that feeling of like, when you do like really spend time with someone in your dream, then
Yeah.
you wake up and it's over, and there's
Right.
like a bittersweet quality to that, like, you know.
yeah, because
it's-
like you're almost grateful that you got to see that person.
yeah.
And then when you wake up, you realize, oh, it was just a dream. They're actually not there.
You kind of
So-
feel that pain anew,
Mhm.
but you also do have the gratitude that
Yeah.
it was like you had a real experience with somebody.
For sure.
So it's kind of like your acting and your music kind of go together, and they help
Exactly.
one another.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
so now the EPs will also be called Broken Memory.
It is. Yep.
And when that comes out, I hope you're going to come back on a
I
Hot
would
Seat
love to,
Medium
of course, yeah.
one day. And until then, people can follow you at Instagram
Mhm.
and on Facebook.
Mhm.
We'll have links to all
Mhm.
that, and we'll also have show notes at uticaphoenix.net/medium Monday. And we are at, well, we have 3 minutes to go. I thought we had to end at 5:57. So
I do just want to say thank you very much for having me on
Yes.
the show, and thank you for reaching out, because I'm very
Oh,
grateful
wow.
to be here and to be able to share this with everybody who's listening. I know I have a lot of people in the cast right now listening. My family's
Oh,
listening at
that's
home,
exciting.
and like extended family that lives like out in North Carolina is listening right now.
Cool.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
And
that's really great.
family in Texas. Like I have lots of people
Oh, so we
listening.
got a big
yeah,
audience here.
of
for
course. So I'm really
95.5.
grateful for this. Thank you.
Well, I'm so glad you're here. I mean, I was so moved by your performance in the company and by everybody's, and it was such a great experience. I'm so glad that like your castmates and Dennis Clark, the director, and I talked to the lighting director, like that everybody there, like, you know, like let me go wander backstage and interview everybody and ask questions about like the props, and
Yeah.
there's just like so much to a play that like
Oh,
I
yeah.
never. Like, I kind of, like, knew that, you know, because you watch a play, you think, well, someone picked out the clothes, and someone has to make sure that they get into the clothes, and someone has to make sure that they have, you know, the food and the drinks are laid
And that goes
out.
back to everybody having a job and everybody needing to work together. Like everybody has their
Yeah.
own individual part to play. So
And until, like, I was there and, like, backstage, I didn't realize, like, how intricate and precise, like,
100%.
the martini glass has like masking tape where it
Mhm.
goes, so that
Yep.
you know where it's going to be, you know.
Yeah, there's spikes on stage where everything needs to go, and the stage crew
Right.
needs to move it to a specific spot, and there's so many other things too. It's like, you know, for this
So
last
many
show, I
things.
had a quick change where I had to change into the punk outfit,
Yeah.
and I had to run off stage. I had to take off what I had on, have the
Yeah.
punk outfit underneath. I had to put eyeliner on. I had to
Wow.
spike my hair up, and then it was a whole thing because after that song, I had to go back, take all the makeup off, put my hair back down, and then put a leather jacket on so that I could
And
do
how
the
much
next
time
one.
did you have to do all
It was
this?
very little, like just a couple minutes. So, but that's what I mean.
That's
Like I had
pressure.
so much help, yeah. And
Yeah,
like, if you don't,
right.
you know, you have to do your job and you have to get back out there. So it's impossible without those people helping you. So.
And that's where I'm sure like the muscle memory comes in
Oh,
handy
100%,
too. Like
yeah.
you've done it so many
Mhm.
times and stuff. So
Yep, and that's what dress rehearsals for. So
how did Baby go? That was
it went very well. Yeah, it was a
saw really good
fantastic
stuff about
show.
it on social.
Very
I didn't
emotionally
get out
moving.
but I saw
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Very, very.
You're very good
show.
at the emotional stuff. You
Thank
know,
you. Yeah.
you really did a great job of tapping into. Even though like Bobby was a character who's much older than
Mm-hmm.
you, you really did such a great job of tapping into like what it was all about. And it must have been hard to play somebody who's kind of like whose main characteristic was sort of his indecisiveness.
Yep.
But you did it well, and like you made it so that it was compelling to think
Mm-hmm.
about like which friend is this guy going to listen to, and is he going to like do this or do that? And like everyone's telling him, do this, Bobby, do this, Bobby, do that.
But then at the end of the show, it's really about what he wants, and that's what the big
Yeah.
song "Being Alive" is about. It's because
Right.
he's like, I don't care what anybody's saying anymore. I'm gonna do what makes me feel alive, and
Yeah.
maybe that's being with somebody. Maybe it's not. We don't know how the show ends because it doesn't really end like that.
What's
so.
it like to go through that experience? Like each time we do a show, from like you go through a journey as the actor, like
Mhm.
from where the character begins, where the character ends. What is that like?
Yeah, so usually the director will give you sort of like a brief, like, okay, this is what the character's like throughout most of the show. Work with that, maybe, you know, look at some other performances of it, maybe grab a few things you like here and there, but like, you know, make it your own. The
Yeah.
big thing with Bobby is like I got a few chances to like watch some other shows, and I wasn't a huge fan of how he was being portrayed because from my eyes I was like, well, Bobby's indecisive, but he's also he really is an emotional person.
Oh yeah,
He
yeah.
doesn't show it.
Right.
So
Right.
being able to bring out the more emotional side of that character for me was huge. And as I developed on through that, the end of the show became very emotionally moving for me.
So do you feel the same emotion when you record these songs?
Oh, of course.
I'm sure
Absolutely.
you do.
Yeah.
'Cause,
Every
yeah.
time I play them, I get to relive those emotions again, and it's beautiful.
And we can definitely hear that.
Mhm.
So check out Broken Memory on all those Spotify, Pandora, YouTube, Amazon, and Apple Music. He'll have a EP out soon, and when you
Very
do,
soon.
you'll be back to talk about that.
Love
and
to.
we'll have links to everywhere you can follow him and follow his career at uticaphoenix.net/Medium Monday. Yeah, so Xander Wilson, thank you for being in the studio for my first Medium Monday.
Of course,
I'm so
thank you for having
excited.
me.
One of my favorite actors, performers here. So we got off to a really good start. So thanks, Xander. Thank you, audience. And I'll be back next Monday with another content creator here at Utica Phoenix. Hot Seat Medium Monday.
Yo, what's